Alright, guys, so today we're going to talk about 4 2019 fantasy quarterback busts that you might want to think about avoiding. Some of you have already drafted, some of you are about to draft right around the corner. That's the situation for most people. There's a few guys out there that you might be looking at that you probably want to stay away from this year, or at least think twice about. Number one guy on my list this year to watch out for is Drew Brees. He's coming in an ADP like 113, coming in somewhere around quarterback 6 to 9. It's hard to call Drew Brees a bust, I get it. He's obviously going to perform as he always does, but his output this year is at risk when compared to previous years. Father Time catches up to all of us, and Drew Brees is not getting any younger. We can see, if we look at the past few years, a progression where his arm strength is getting a little bit less. Those long passes are harder for him to make, so he's not going to be, you're not going to be getting the 60, 70 yarders out of him probably like we did before. He had less than 4,000 passing yards last season, and that's down from over 5,000 in 2016. I mean, he still threw 32 touchdowns last year, but that's way down from his all-time high of 46 in 2011. Drew Brees, future Hall of Famer, great quarterback in the real world, but looking at going heavy on the run game again this year, looking at the pass game coming down a little bit. I'm not, considering Drew Brees personally unless I slept a little bit and maybe I can get him late and there's really no other better options. Number 2, and someone who it's hard to talk about and say this about, but I think Aaron Rodgers. I mean, if we look at him at an ADP of 73, he's going even higher than Drew Brees at quarterback 2 or 3. For me, that's just way too high for him. And I don't normally pick a quarterback until later in the draft anyway, but if you're someone who likes to get somebody up early, I might avoid Aaron Rodgers this year. He's a shoe-in Hall of Famer just like Drew Brees, but again, time is catching up to him, and he's playing with a diminished and young receiving core this year that may not be able to get him up above the 4,000-yard mark. He's only broken 4,500 yards once, and he only threw for 25 touchdowns last year. I don't see Rodgers breaking top 5 fantasy quarterback this year, and I'm only taking him just like Drew Brees if I slept a little bit too long and I'm hurting to find a decent quarterback and there's nobody better. Another guy to keep an eye on this year and maybe think twice about picking up is Big Ben. He's got an ADP somewhere just above 100 to 120. He's coming in at quarterback 8 to 11 somewhere range. The guy's had a heck of a career, is certainly Hall of Fame bound, but it's no surprise to anyone that he's slipping. Last year, he even said it himself. Now, granted, that's right before he pulled it together and reminded us all how he can be, how good he can be, what he can do. Really, the dude put over 5,000 yards last year and dropped 34 touchdowns. But he also threw 16 interceptions, tied for second most of his career. Got to think about the 5,000 yards last year is not enough to pick him up when you consider that AB is gone, which means Juju is going to get double teams, and Bell exits, being Ben's biggest short pass catcher. You got AB and Le'Veon gone, things are going to change. I'm not sure the rest of the core there can pick up the slack. You think about, too, they got James Conner and Jalen Samuels. Both of them can catch the ball, but I just don't see them picking up enough slack to put him up at a high-level quarterback level that he might have played at last year. He's probably going to do big things, especially at home, but I just don't know that he's consistent enough this year to be relied on as a quarterback 1. If he slips down a little bit late and you're a guy like me that likes to pick up a backup quarterback to keep on the roster, then maybe Ben's that guy, but I just don't see myself picking him up as my number 1 starter. Number 4 on the list, and the last guy we're going to talk about in this video, is Russell Wilson. He's got an ADP around 115. He's going around quarterback 10 in some leagues. And, that quarterback 10 thing, that might be about where he fits. But to me, I don't want a QB 10 to be my starting quarterback. He's a great quarterback. He's done great things in the past. But that was with a lot better receiving core and a lot younger legs. Last season, he racked up less than 3,500 passing yards, guys. I mean, that's one of the lowest levels of any of the top guys on this list. And it was the second lowest rushing year ever with less than 400 yards and no rushing touchdowns last year for Russell Wilson. I know he threw 35, but that seems unlikely this year to me with what will probably be a run-heavy offense. And again, I'm not touching him unless he's available late, or if maybe I pick him up as a QB2 if I decide to have a backup quarterback on the roster this year. I just don't see it this year. I feel like Russell Wilson is one of those guys that you probably should just go ahead and avoid. So if you like this video, check out my other fantasy videos to help give you an edge. And remember to smash the like and subscribe buttons. Thanks a lot, guys.